What's your worst roommate story? In the course of a month or two, had the money to buy a 50 to 60-inch flat-screen TV. Xbox One. Ridiculously overpriced bong. Tabletop weed vaporizer. Fancy handheld vape mod whatever the F. Constant supply of weed, vape juice, and hard liquor. But when I go to the rental office to pay my half of the rent, I'm the one that gets threatened with eviction because he hasn't given them a dime in 3 months. Also, most of the utilities were in my name, except for gas, which got shut off every couple months because he couldn't be bothered to pay it, then had the audacity to complain to me how he was going to get sick because he had to take a cold shower. Haven't spoken to him since before COVID. Last time I heard he was living in AS apartment, with terrible neighbors, sleeping in a makeshift hammock while cooking his one meal a day on a hot plate. This is my worst roommate story but swap genders. I learned my lesson and will never put my name as the primary on rent and utility bills that are shared again. She had money for spending sprees, clubbing and binge drinking alcohol every day but not enough to pay her bills. She also bought me a birthday present though I asked her not to, then promptly asked for money for it as she couldn't afford it. She was almost fired from her job several times, due to clubbing till 3 a.m. then needing to get up for work at 5 a.m., and she seemed to think I'd just pay for her. She tried once to start an altercation with a neighbor who we later found out had assault on his record. The worst part is this girl I was friends with for 10 years prior, and she was not like this the 8 times a year I hung out with her then, so it's not even like I took a chance with a rando from online. One of my friends bought a house and wanted a roommate to help with payments. He put an ad on Craigslist and found some guy same age same interests that seemed okay. After he moved in though, he was obviously a little off. He'd make random farm animal noises like there's a group over hanging out while everyone is talking. Dude just lets out a loud moo. Apparently he'd also do it when it was just my friend, his GF, and the roommate there. Then one day the GF's parents came to town and it my friend's first time meeting them, so he wanted to impress them. He cooked a fancy meal and it was great weather, so they were eating on the back patio. In the middle of them eating, the roommate came out of his room, locked the glass patio door, took off his clothes, and started jerking off while staring at them. The backyard was fenced in, so they were basically trapped back there and had no keys to get back inside the house since all the doors were locked. They had to call the cops, which the roommate had finished by then, and let the cops in, who let my friend back in and arrested roommate. My friend had a roommate who was a hoarder. The roommate would collect all sorts of things, including old newspapers, magazines, clothes, and even food. The apartment quickly became overrun with clutter, and it was impossible to move around without tripping over something. The roommate also had a habit of leaving food out on the counter, which would attract bugs and rodents. My friend tried to talk to the roommate about the mess, but the roommate refused to clean it up. Eventually, my friend had to move out of the apartment because it was too unsanitary to live in. Okay, so he was my buddy back in the day, so I don't hate him. But he had drug issues that would often manifest as erratic, disturbing behavior. Worst instance, he tried make roast beef in the microwave by putting a raw roast in the microwave, hitting 99:99 on high and going out for a bike ride. Comes back, beef's destroyed, microwave's destroyed, we're like WTF man. She stole my prescription medication, kept trying to wake me up at 3 a.m. to comfort her during a breakup. I started work at 6 a.m. and she knew that, didn't pay the last 2 months' rent and left half her crap in the place when I kicked her out. I lived with a former roommate that never washed his towel in the time we lived together, nor did he clean his room. He'd only ever eat bowls of cereal, work for 10+ hours a day and smoke weed. He also never helped with chores and always would leave his bowl in the sink for days to soak. His teeth and clothing were immaculate, which was always such a conundrum. It was a cat. Apparently, the cat was very attached to his person, who was my human roommate. When she got a boyfriend and started spending nights away from the apartment, he became bereft. He barely ever acknowledged me before, even when she had gone away on non-boyfriend-related overnight trips. But with the BF in the picture, he never stayed over at our place, she always went over to his. The cat suddenly needed me morning, noon, and night. When it was clear I would be unable to stay up all night with him while he cried and moaned about his loss, he began a reign of terror against me that led me to call him the evil genius. Now, this terrorizing wasn't just the standard rattling the doorknobs all night or being sure to puke where I would step on it. He would observe me all day, every day, and figure out what I paid the most attention to. He saw the things I cared the most about and began to systematically destroy them. He destroyed so much of my jewelry, but never the cheap stuff, only the most expensive things. And I woke up one night to him smashing on my computer keyboard, which almost aborted a dead run. I was in grad school, and it was my dissertation work. I could go on and on. Still, I felt a bit melancholy when he eventually went into a steep decline. He was a worthy foe, even if he was an abusive little s. Rest in peace, F-head. This is my favorite. Have quite a few, but two stories stand out. My first roommate in college dorms had Asperger's. He had a fascination with the communal toilet. He would flush toys, socks, everything he could down it till it clogged. He would eat sardines in bed and not clean up or seal the empty can. He would giggle himself to sleep till 3 to 4 a.m. Second roommate at our house was filthy and would leave beer cans in the yard. One day they came in and asked, "What are your thoughts on raising chickens?" I said our landlord would be pissed and that they are filthy and smelly. They replied, "Well, I have 2 hens and 8 chicks in the basement." I had a roommate who was really overweight and it caused a bit of an eating disorder. We were both 19-year-old guys in college and he was probably around 300 pounds while I was a little thin, around 145 pounds. On its own that wouldn't have been a big deal, but his habits were pretty bad. He would eat nothing all day and then reward himself by buying a large pizza, wings, and 2-liter soda, laying in bed with the pizza box balanced on his stomach, and eat the whole thing. Then he'd drop all the box, bones, etc. on the floor and fall asleep. He used his sheets as a napkin and there was an orange grease stain on the sides of his bed. I could simply not eat around him. And with college being already crazy, I just missed a lot of meals. I knew I was losing weight, but then a girlfriend noticed it was getting bad and said something to me. I had got down to 120 pounds before I moved out of there after 4 months. Lived with a good buddy and a girl we met online. We kept the heat really low to save money in the winter. She was a very arts and crafts kind of person. She spent a lot of time in her room doing something with her hairdryer. Figured it was something to do with her art. Turns out she was running her hairdryer for hours as a space heater. OMG, I had a roommate in college who did this. Her room was next to mine, and at the time she was a good friend, so I'd pop in to say hi if her door was open. One day when I dropped by I noticed her hairdryer was on the ground, set on high. I obviously asked her WTF and she said she had just taken a nap and it helps her sleep. Not roommate, but upstairs neighbor. My first apartment many years ago was on the first floor. A few people lived in an upstairs apartment. The guys would dribble a basketball on their floor, which was my kitchen ceiling. Kinda annoying, but one night, I come home late from a party to find broken glass all over the kitchen floor. I mean, all over. I switch the light on, and it's a bare bulb up there. Their dribbling had loosened the ceiling fixture and sent the glass cover crashing to the floor. When I left home I lived in a bedsit with a shared kitchen. I came home one evening from the pub and one of the residents was in the kitchen drinking with some friends who I hadn't met. She was making a spaghetti bolognese. I said to her, the food really smells nice, where's mine? Haha. She said, I'm sorry, but there isn't enough to go around. Next day I looked in fridge and my shelf was mysteriously missing 2 cans of lager, a box of button mushrooms, a jar of red pesto, and a whole block of cheese. Happy days. Please like and subscribe for more daily content.